hear the term dementia friendly and the need for education, training to deliver that, I don't think anybody needs to be trained to be friendly. That's part of the human condition. So I'm far more in favour of using the term dementia inclusive. We can't have a sort of affairs where we say we're friendly, we're inclusive, in other words, the language is right, if we're not actually doing something that makes the lives of people truly different.
The dementia friendliness of society as a whole is something that people are interested in and they want, it's a given. But what they're really worried about is the level of knowledge in health and social care staff. And people are very fearful of dementia. So anything that can be done in the community to make their lives easier, to make the lives of their families easier, has to be welcomed.
What we hear is now that if your needs are not critical, then the NHS and the social services won't be there for you until they become critical. And what does that mean? That means when all is failing, families are exhausted, the person with dementia is vulnerable and distressed, then we start to see health and social services stepping in. And that is another rightful place for the government to be. Either directly or indirectly, they must be supporting the NHS, the social services, independent care providers to provide quality of care as people get to the end of the journey. But the period between the diagnosis and the end of the journey is measured in years. And what we now have to see is society stepping forward to support people who are living with dementia and support their caring families.
Working age dementia in general is regarded as dementia of people who would still be in a position to be holding down a job, perhaps have dependent children, people who have particular responsibilities and relationships which are not the same as those. And of course that's made complicated by the fact that insofar as there are services for people with dementia, those services are focused on the kind of people who most often use them. So if you think of care home care, for example, the majority of residents in care homes with dementia are probably women over the age of 80 who are in the last couple of years of their lives.
5 years ago, I wouldn't have been talking about the workplace. Now, for me, it's one of the major concerns and considerations I have. It's probably addressing a number of issues. For example, many people, especially people who work in major towns and cities, working in large companies, they probably have more contact with colleagues than they do with the neighbours they live in the streets. And so it can be a great opportunity to support people who are, for example, having care and responsibilities for people who are living with dementia. There would be a need for some advice, guidance and support. And if we take that into the workplace, then what that person has to know even before they have the conversation is that when they do have the conversation, they're not going to confront stigma and prejudice and fear and expectation that they're a danger to themselves and others. And so I think having a dementia literate, a dementia informed workplace is critical to this.
People always think of dementia as a memory problem, but when you actually do the research with both the carers and the people with dementia, the memory problem isn't the biggest one that they always mention. The sorts of things that are problematic for them are agitation, anxiety, sleeplessness at night and nocturnal wandering. And I use the word wandering advisedly. It's not a very acceptable word, but it's what the carer thinks of it as when the person walks somewhere where it's not helpful or it's inappropriate or they might walk into danger. And so when you look at the assistive technology that helps with the things that people actually complain about, that people actually find hard to live with when they've got when they're affected by dementia, then the assistive technology that's available is very interesting and very wide. And when we think of the devices that people use in order to help with becoming lost, which is one of the biggest fears we found from the research, then the assistive technology to help with that is amazing now. It's unobtrusive, it's body worn, it can be detected by your family. Assistive technology has a huge role, but we have to make sure the ethics around it are attended to.
What I would never wish to see or hear is that we're using technology to replace human relationships. Technology is going to be a means to improve the lives of people who are affected by dementia. human relationships enable people to live better with dementia. It's just another tool. It's not replacing.